All right, a good morning, my dear students. So today we're going to meet on the second session of our fundamentals of business. So let me jump into the today's session. All right, so let me just go on a brief with the syllabus or what's going to be tested on your syllabus. So as we all know, I told you that we have 18 competencies, and we have started on the inquiries of the basis of business and the environment in which it performs. So we spoke about the business concept, we had an introduction on it, and we spoke about the needs and wants. So you do see the learning outcomes. So always remember what is more needed, right? You have to ensure that with the learning outcome. That is the most important part. So the learning outcome says when you are a person who has gone through the business concept or the interaction, you should be able to introduce the business concept. So you know what is a business, what it does, and you should be able to explain the needs and wants using examples. So this is what they are going to test you on your exam. So learning outcomes. So always remember, stick to the learning outcomes. If you have learned something, just cross check whether you are able to fulfill this particular need. All right. So today we are going to start on with the market and the products. All right, let's jump into today's session. So just a recap on what we discussed already. So we spoke about the importance of business. We spoke about the business concept. We spoke about certain examples, and we know the fundamentals or the basics in order to conduct a business is needs and wants. So we discussed about needs and wants as well. So you know there is a comparison between these two. So make sure that you are aware of this. There might be questions that is being tested, that will be tested, which is being tested for so many years. All right. So today let's start off with the products. So we know we need something to fulfill the human needs and wants. Correct? We need something to fulfill human needs and wants. So what it could be? Well, obviously, yes, your answer is correct. It is a product. So if there is something that is produced, or if there is something that is available in the market to fulfill the human needs or to satisfy human needs and wants, that is called a product. Anything offered to the market that is intended to satisfy human needs and wants are called as products. Products can be categorized mainly as goods and services. So that is a key thing that you have to understand. Goods and services. So we know products are something that is offered to fulfill or satisfy human needs and wants. Yes, that's the first key thing that you have to understand when you are requested to write a description about product, or if you are requested to explain what products, you have to write the key thing that is available in the market to satisfy human needs and wants. The first key points. So remember, I told you, you don't have to memorize anything. Always, when you learn something, just try to take down the key areas or the key points. Secondly, this can be categorized into two, which you already know. First one is goods, the second one is services. All right. So I told you at the beginning itself, remember, this particular subject is one of the most easiest subject to learn. One of the most easiest subject to learn. Because you know, you are interacting with these type of topics on a day-to-day life, right? You know what are goods, you know what are services, because you are with them, you associate with them. All right. So let's see what products are. We know something that is offered in the market to fulfill, to satisfy human needs and wants. Yes. And this is categorized into two. One is goods and services. Well, we are on a platform that I am teaching and you are learning. Well, do we have a physical, or do we see these, or is this particular product tangible? No, which means it is a service. You go to Cargill's, you go to Kiev Super, you purchase something that is on the rack, and you come to the counter, you pay them. So you have a tangible item. You have things which are physical, which is a good. So we know there are two things when it comes to products. One is goods, the second one is services. So what are goods? A commodity or a physical, tangible item that satisfies some human wants or needs, or something that people find useful or desirable and try to acquire it. That is goods. All right. So if you feel this particular definition is something technical and you can't understand, you don't have to worry. Just remember the key points: physical, tangible, and it has to satisfy human needs and wants, which is a good. Secondly, services. Services are the non-physical and intangible. Again, it's very simple. You have only two key terms to remember: non-physical and intangible parts of our economy as opposed to goods. It is opposed to goods, which we can touch or handle. Can you touch a service? Go to bank, you fulfill your financial needs. Well, could you touch or handle? No, which is a service. You go get into a bus, go to the destination where you wanted to, and you get down. Well, were you able to touch or handle that particular product? Well, no, you are able to experience it. So that's service. All right. So you do understand products and you do understand goods and services. In addition, I told you, always remember to write examples. Examples add value to your points. All right. So if you are giving a description about products, anything offered in the market that is intended to satisfy human needs and wants, firstly. Second, it is divided into two, or it's categorized into two. One is goods and the other one is services. Well, you know what is goods? Write an example for it. You know what is service? Write an example for it. All right. So we know we have typical differences between goods and services. So let's see them. What are the differences between these two? Well, goods are tangible, which you could touch, can be stored, you can store them, which is identical. Products can be produced, right? It's easily you could identify them. Separable from the producer. All right, separable from the producer. What does that mean? Well, you go to a bakery, you buy a loaf of bread. Do you know who produced it? No. So you can separate it from the producer. Well, services is intangible. You cannot touch it. All right, and you cannot store it. Well, there might be arguments you would say, well, sir, why can't we store it? Well, yes, a person teaching, you can record it and you can listen to it. Yes, I understand. Well, we are speaking about the real life stories. So you can store a good, which you could easily access it again. But, services, sometimes, yes, I agree with your point. But remember, when I teach something today, sometimes these data might get outdated after years. So, which is not practical, right? So this is what meant by cannot be stored. And varies according to the service provider. A person, let's say there are a few people who teaches business studies. The way I teach might be different from the other person. So this varies from person to person, even though they are qualified and they have experiences. That differs. Their way of delivering differs. You go to a few doctors, right? You don't experience the same thing from all the doctors, correct? Have their own experience. So they have their own way of communicating. They have their own way of expressing. So it varies person to person. So that's the reason services do vary according to the service provider. And of course, it's inseparable from the service provider. You cannot separate the service provider. Well, on a goods perspective, probably the producer you might not know, but when it comes to service, you technically know who this produced that particular service. All right. So now we know what are products and we know the differences between goods and services. So, all right. So you understand the difference between goods and services. So let's jump into the next topic. All right. So, well, we know there are goods and services that exist in the market, correct? Well, in order to access them, or in order to buy them, or in order to experience those services, we need some sort of place, correct? So, what is that? That's the market. So, a market is a place where two parties can gather to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. So, the key term that you have to remember, it facilitates the exchange of goods and services. So, at any point, if there is a facilitation that happens to exchange of goods and services, well, that is called the market. That's called the market. The parties involved are usually buyers and sellers. Well, we know a person who buys is the buyer, the person who sells is the seller. The market may be physical, like a retail outlet, where people meet face to face, or virtual, like an online market, or where there is no direct physical contact between buyers and sellers. Yes? Well, you personally would have experienced. Well, typically after this particular pandemic existed, or all the businesses did move on to these virtual market or the online market, we call it, right? So today, the electronic business concept or e-business or e-commerce is worldwide popular term. All right, even a rural village is accessible to this particular online market. You just go on Facebook, you have your marketplace, you click on it, you search what you want, you order it, you meet the seller, you buy it. You go to Ikman, you search something, you want to buy it, you discuss with the person, you negotiate, you buy it. That's an online market. Or virtual, like an online market. All right. So the trend of retail outlet where people go physically, observe the product, take, feel it, touch, and all these things are no more happening, right? Because that's the latest trend. People do buy on a virtual market, right? So we have so much of platforms that exist in the world, like Amazon, like eBay. So these are some of the examples that you would have already experienced. All right. So a market is a place where two parties can gather to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. So what are the key things you have to remember? A market is a place. So here we have two parties who, one is the buyer, the other one is the seller, has to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. All right. So markets may be represented by physical locations where transactions are made. You go to hotel, you order of food, enjoy the meal, pay for it. Yes, it's a physical location. You go to an institute, you learn, you pay on a monthly basis. Yes, that's a physical location where you, as a buyer, did buy the service. The institute instructor or the teacher did teach you, or they paid, or they sold you the service. So that's a physical location. These include retail stores and other similar businesses that sell individual items to wholesale markets, selling goods to other distributors. So when you speak about retail stores, we have two typical things. One is called retail stores. The other one is called wholesale market. We'll be discussing in detail about this. Just I'll give you a brief description on what is retail and what is wholesale. You most of the time would have noticed when you go to a city or maybe a town, probably you'd have noticed a board, wholesale market. So what does it wholesale mean? You know what is retail? I'll explain you later, but you understand what is wholesale first. So wholesale is particularly to sell a number of goods together or group of goods together, right? So can you buy one particular product or one particular good At a wholesale market, you cannot. So that's what you have to understand, right? Because their purpose is to sell products at a bulk to the individual retail sellers. Let's talk an example. You go to a market, let's say the PETA market, and you do so, they have mentioned as wholesale market, right? You go to an electronic shop which sells smartwatches, smartphones, right? All smartphone accessories and all these things. So you as a person, right? You just walk on the road and you wanted to just enter and see whether you could buy a smartwatch at that place. Once you go in there, they say, "Sir, this is a wholesale place. If you wanted to buy smartwatches, you have to buy at least 10 pieces of the particular smartwatch, but we'll be giving you it at a reasonable price." No, it's obvious that you needed only one smartwatch. All right. So buying 10 is going to waste money. So you might ask that person, well, can I buy one piece? So that wholesaler might tell you, so we have sold to one retailer close by. You go and meet them, you could buy it. Do you understand? So that is called the wholesale market. So their major intention or their purpose of conducting the business is to sell their products to the retail stores or retailers. All right. So this is physical again. Or they may be virtual. It is not necessary to be a physical location. It could be a virtual location as well, right? So remember, the market is the place where two parties can gather to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. And as I told you, today we are more into these internet-based stores or auction sites such as Amazon, eBay, and if you speak the Sri Lankan local context, we have Daras, we have Ikman, we have the Facebook marketplace, and so many. Are examples of market where transactions can take place entirely online and the parties involved never connect physically. Never connect physically. All right. Imagine you have received the utility bill of your house. You do pay online. You don't go to that particular board, or you don't go to the Ceylon electricity board, you don't go to the water board, you do the payments online. Well, you do connect with them. The buyer and the seller are connected using the online platform. So it is a market. All right. So remember, if you are requested to write a description about market, you have to write a description, or you have to write a definition, or you have to write an explanation of what is market, the parties involved in the market, and the characteristic of a market. It could be physical or it could be non-physical. All right, these are the things that you have to keep in your mind. And as I always tell you, whenever you are requested to explain about something, please try to write some of the relative examples, which will add more value to your answer. All right, so let's jump into the next topic. Okay, so today we are going to discuss on the characteristics of business. We are going to discuss about the characteristics of business. So what is the meaning of characteristics? Well, imagine you have your own characteristics. Some people might be extrovert. Some people might be introverts, right? Some people might be very social, go talk to people, meet new friends, very talkative. Some people might be very silent, they don't talk much. Some people are very much into sports. These are characters or characteristics of individual, correct? Some people always keep on gossiping. Some people always keep on helping others, generous, they don't talk unnecessary things. These are characteristics, right? The best example to speak about characteristics, take a look at our parliament, right? You do see 225, about two-third of it sleep often, right? One-third of it don't go to the parliament often. Oh, that is the characteristic of those people, right? So it happens. So there are characteristics to anything that you do. If you are engaged into a business, how do you say it is a business? Well, you have to identify at least few of these characteristics. If you could point out these characteristics, it is obviously going to be a business. So let's see what are the characteristics. The first one, exchange or selling takes place. That's obvious, right? There should be an exchange or selling to be taken place. All the businesses sell or exchange goods and services for monetary value. Buying or selling of a goods and services at a price is an essential factor of the business. If there is no such selling or exchange, then there is no business activity. Example, cooking food for family members at home is not considered as a business, whereas cooking food to sell is considered as a business. Right now, that will be a problem. You might ask me, so when you explain me about the business definition, you said anything or any activity that is to fulfill human needs and wants is called a business. But now you say a business, an activity that is a house of cooking is not a business. Well, yes, I agree with your argument. But remember, we learn business studies as a subject for the purpose of, are we to do something with social interest? Is that the intention of learning here? No. Remember very carefully. The intention of this entire module or subject is to give an idea for a person to establish themselves and develop their business making skills. So everything we discuss here mostly will rely on making money or making monetary value. That is the intention, all right? But I could relate this particular characteristic like this. Exchange or selling takes place, all right? So exchange is happening, right? There is an exchange happening within this activity, right? Yes, someone is cooking and they give food. Probably, say at a house, if a father or mother is making food and giving them to their children or to the family members. So what do they exchange? Love. All right. So yes, it is a business activity. No argument at all. But here we are discussing, focusing the monetary value. So the intention of this course module is for people to make money because that is what helps the government. That what helps an economy. All right. Here, this particular course module introduced to the General Certificate of Education Advanced Level students to give them some idea or knowledge for them to develop, establish themselves after their A levels into a economy to develop and contribute to the economy. That is the intention, correct? So remember, a characteristic of business is to exchange or sell. So there should be an exchange or selling should take place within a business. This is the first characteristic. Second one, transactions of goods and services. Transactions of goods and services. All the business produce or purchases goods and services in order to sell others. Transaction of goods and services take place. They can be consumer goods or industrial goods. So what are consumer goods and industrial goods? Everything is in detail. I'll explain you in brief. Consumer goods. If you buy something with an intention to consume, if you buy something with an intention to consume, that is consumer goods. If you buy something with an intention to make something, that is called industrial good. That's called industrial good. All right. Imagine you go to Single Mega, you buy an oven to a household purpose, you cook and you enjoy within the house. That's a consumer good over there. You buy a microwave oven or an industrial oven to your bakery and you baker you bake bakery products and you sell them. So here That's an industrial good. All right. So transactions of goods and services should take place. That is one of the characteristics of business. So goods which are brought for final and consumption, such as bread, clothes, shoes, are known as consumer goods. Goods which are brought for the production of consumer goods, such as raw materials, machineries, are known as industrial or business goods. Intangibles such as electricity, insurance, banking services are some of the examples for services as well. Transactions of goods and services has to take place. All right. The third one is continuous transactions takes place. A continuous transaction should take place. Now there might be a question. So as a business, what if we do not have one of these or two of these characteristics? Well, I told you at the beginning, it is not necessary to have all these sort of characteristics into a business. All right. Because that is not practical. There might be majority of these characteristics into a business. That is what we have. All right. The third one is continuous transactions take place. So what does this mean? If the transaction of goods and services are done continuously for a long period of time, it is known as business. If only one transaction takes place, it is not considered under business. Example, if a person sells his old scooter, which was used by him, is not a business. But if he sells the scooters on a continuous basis, it is a business. Now, again, some of you might ask, sir, you go to the Facebook marketplace, you buy something, people sell them. Well, it is a business. Obviously, it is a business. It is a business. Yes, I agree with your point, right? There's no argument on it. Okay. But when you say continuous transaction take place, it adds more value, right? So businesses do exist. Facebook marketplace is a business. All right. Okay. So that you could have these characteristics or you might ignore this characteristic. It doesn't matter. The fourth one is motivated by profit or benefits. Now there is another question. So we learned it is not money making or anything that is conducted to fulfill the human needs and wants. What was business? So well, there are service motive businesses too. So how could this be a characteristic of business? Again, I told you very carefully. Remember, there should be a motivation by profit or benefits. So it doesn't say there is a motivation of making money oriented profit or benefits. All right. There are businesses, yes, make money, and there are businesses which have other benefits. Correct. Now, if you are engaged into a club which does social service, well, your reputation, right? That is a benefit. Your recognition among the society, that's a benefit that you can. So you are motivated by one factor, which is profit or benefits. The basic goal of a business is to earn money and acquire wealth. A profit earned in terms of rupees and cents, an income more than the expenditure, building business relationships, generating business opportunities, and providing social welfare are included in profit. Did you understand? So it is not only the money extra you make more than the expenditure. Accordingly, there are profit motive businesses as well as businesses with non-profit motive, but motivated by benefits. Therefore, profit in the business field is an essential for the expansion of a business. Has a risk. Has a risk. That's the fifth characteristic of a business. Yes, if you are engaged into a business, there is always a risk. There is always a risk. There are risks in the business due to the uncertainty in earning profit and the possibility of incurring a loss. The higher the risk, the higher the return you make. Higher the risk, the higher the return you make. Since the future of a business is uncertain, changes in the business environment, the inability to control the following facts which affect profit will create an uncertainty for a business. So you understand there is a risk of doing or conducting a business. There is always a risk, correct? Because You are investing your money, your assets, your time, your value, your knowledge, your experience, everything to make or to get something in return. Well, it is not certain that you will make what you expected, correct? There are businesses which have succeeded to an extreme level, and there are businesses which have flopped to the very low level. The best example is Nokia. You know, within the period of 2003 to 2010 and 11, Nokia a phone producer, I'm not using a mobile phone producer, it's not a smartphone producer, it was a mobile phone producer, was one of the tech giants in the world. All right. All of a sudden, when the smartphones market took peak, Nokia had to lose their market. So that's what, right? So a company which was succeeding in the market for an extreme level immediately started dropping down because they could not adopt, or they did not want to adopt, the Android operating system. Instead, they were using their own operating system. All right. And then later on, they had to switch over markets. They had to give off their shares to Microsoft. And then again, now, since 2017, again, they are into the market and they are producing quality smartphones right now too, adopting the operating system of the Android. So what you have to understand is any business that conducts definitely has a risk. So even in your village, you'd have noticed so many businesses might have existed. Immediately they would have shut down. There might be certain businesses which you would have not imagined, well, they will make a big success. Now you would see they would have made a very big success. So it is how you accept the risk and how you treat the risk is what matters. All right. So changes in consumer taste and design and the demand is one factor that will affect the profit or makes a risk. Changes in production, technology, and machineries is one factor that increases the risk. Increase in market competition, correct. Scarcity of raw material, power failure, and shortage of fuel is the best example that Sri Lanka is currently facing. Employee problems and strikes, yes, we are the best examples of it. Fire, theft, burglary, and accidents, well, not up to that level. Incorrect management decisions on using the business resources, obviously. All the Sri Lankan institutes or all the government institutes are best examples of this. If you just go through the COPE committee meetings, which are going through on these days, well, you do see all the institutes, from Sri Lankan Airlines to the Ceylon Electricity Board, you name it. Everyone is trying to make very good decisions, I would say, in a sarcastic manner, right? So all improper management or failing to make proper management decisions, all right? So that's the main reason that they are, or that's the main reason that we are suffering now, because of all these government organizations making a loss, and they don't have proper management, or they do not have an effective management to make decisions. All right. Okay. And the sixth part is creating wants. Well, creating wants, I told you cannot create need, but you could create a want. You understand the difference between needs and wants, right? So under wants, under needs and wants, the comparison we spoke, needs cannot be created by businesses, but definitely wants can be created by businesses. So businesses produce goods and services to satisfy human wants. Some businesses turn raw materials into finished goods to satisfy human wants. Some businesses satisfy human wants by transporting products from place to place, but there is a high demand for the product. Some businesses satisfy human wants by storing at the time of harvesting in order to provide at the time of scarcity. Accordingly, every business creates human wants by providing goods and rendering services. All right. And the seventh one, an economic activity. It is an economic activity. Businesses are essentially considered as an economic activity since they produce goods and services using limited resources and engage in distribution activities. You underline this part? They produce goods and services using limited resources. When you speak about economics, what does economics speak about? It always speaks about what is the major economic problem. When you learn in economics, the major economic problem is how to produce, or the basic economic problem, what to produce, how to produce, to whom you're going to produce. All this problem, the main reason is we do not have enough resources. It's scarcity of resources. So businesses are essentially considered to be an economic activity because they are engaged in the process of producing goods and services by using these scarce resources or limited resources. It is money oriented. Businesses are economic activities since they sell goods and services and use limited resources. All right. So just to recap on the characteristics of a business, probably you might get a 3 to 5 mark question on this. If they ask the characteristics, could write at least 5 characteristics. You don't have to remember. Just imagine a business. Well, exchange of goods happen over there. Transaction of goods and services take place. Continuous transaction, because the businesses do exist at least for a year, for 2 years, for a longer period, right? Motivated by profit or benefits, have a risk, create wants, and economic activity, right? These are the key things that you have to remember when you speak about the characteristics of business. All right. So today we discussed products, we discussed markets, and we discussed about the characteristics of business. So remember the key topics or the key things which will be quite enough for you to answer your questions. All right. Thank you very much for listening today. Please be safe and take care of yourself. Please learn and make sure your buddies or your colleagues or your friends are also engaged into this program. So we will be covering the entire syllabus and we'll be discussing on the past papers as well. Thank you very much for your continuous support. Take care of yourself. Be safe. We'll meet very soon. Bye for now.